Welcome to the Creepin' It Real show, your one-stop shop for weird news, spooky, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow us on Twitter at creepin_it and like us on Facebook at The Creepin' It Real Show. Do you have a paranormal story you'd like to share with us? You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com.
There we are. Yes, hello. Welcome to the Creepin' It Real show. I am Kristi. This week it's my turn. Yay. And I am also accompanied by Yardley, my southern neighbor. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Excited about today.
Me too. How are you, Moni, over there in sunny California?
Doing good. Excited to do this thing today.
I'm glad y'all are excited, because it really wouldn't make for a good show if you were not excited. So
that's a true story.
I just wanted to play any catch up. Anybody have any personal news or anything happening to them this week? Or Yardley, how's the podcast going? The new one, The Terror.
Yeah, you know what? It's going good. The Terror has actually been ramping up to be a pretty decent translation from the book. I've started kind of piecing together a little time to kind of, skim the book, so to speak, to try to see if, a lot of these things are matching up. But fortunately for myself and my other two co-hosts, which is Kente Ferguson, which I do a lot of other podcasts with on indie radio. And we have an awesome, she's actually like a writer. She's like all about, books, and she really knows a lot of nuances of things to pick up when you're reading a book. And we have her on the show. Her name's Jen. She's very good, and we lean on her a lot because she's read that phone book like twice. So we kind of lean on her to kind of give us a gauge of, what they're doing good, or or whatever. But it's been going great, and I don't know if either of you have started watching it. It's a slow burn, but there's a lot of subtlety to the story. I definitely recommend it, and I hope y'all start watching it too.
I have not. I'm behind, so I have to play catch up, and just have not had the time to do it. But I definitely want to keep going and hopefully get caught up soon. What about you, Moni? Have you started watching it?
No, I got behind, and then that made me a little overwhelmed because I've been to the movies twice this week, which for a working parent of young children is difficult to get out once, let alone twice. And then had some extenuating circumstances with work and kids. But anyway, need to get caught up. Would really like to see it. And also, like, you guys know me with the slow burn. And it's like, meh. So, my motivation to get caught up is knowing that it kind of picks up later on. So we'll see. Yeah. But I do want to.
It's definitely a slow burn the first couple of episodes, but after that, because the first episode is totally set up, the second episode adds a little bit more to that setup. By the time the third and the fourth episode comes around, there's a lot of stuff happening. So it's more along the line of, when I say slow burn, you definitely want to pay attention to the dialogue, but it's definitely good on the suspense part, because of course there's this thing that's out there that's kind of killing these men. And actually, the last episode, you kind of got your first sight of the thing. Well, at least its feet. So now it's starting to get into that. Okay, things are about to start going downhill. So hopefully, both of you stick with it. But at least for me, I can say that I recommend it. And hey, if anything else, just listen to the podcast, and we'll let you know what all's going on with it.
There you go.
Awesome. Okay. Well. Moni, you got anything to share about your wonderfully exciting life?
Yes and no. I'm preparing to do something that rhymes with mayance that Kristi will not agree with, because it involves a Ouija board.
Oh boy.
And I will report on it at next week's podcast, because it is my turn to be the main host. And if it doesn't go well, and my version of not going well, because I have no fear that anything bad is going to happen. The only thing that I consider bad is nothing happening at all, which is what I'm pretty sure is going to happen. So we'll see how much I have to report next week. but I've been doing a lot of research and doing a lot of preparation and suckering a lot of friends into doing this with me. And we've picked a historical location that has actually had EVP recorded there. So it's going to be interesting, and that's all I'm going to say about it for now.
Ooh, I'll be sure to bring my holy water in next week's show.
Sounds good. The power of Christ compels me.
That's right. Well, I have a couple of things. We're going to have to do a couple of pour outs for some homies today. My neighbor died Thursday night. Very randomly. He was only 47 years old.
Wow.
And they had only lived here for a year. I was really good friends with the people that lived in the house before them. And they moved here from up north, and she was at work all day trying to get a hold of him, and he wasn't answering his phone, and then came home, and he was on the floor dead. So,
jeez. I'm sorry to you and your neighborhood.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. Just kind of a strange, one of those things where when you spend so much time reading and watching paranormal and horror, and then the last couple of weeks have been kind of bizarre for me. They've kind of been on my front porch hanging out with the weirdo with the gun, and now a neighbor passing away. They're not really sure what happened. So there was detectives and investigative teams there well past 3 a.m. And we don't really have any details yet as to what's happened, whether it was just something like a heart attack or what happened. So, yeah, pour one out to Brian. And also, getting into some news really quick, Art Bell, I don't know if you guys ever watched or listened to Coast Radio. I did growing up. And let me just say that he pretty much made my weird obsession with all things bizarre, paranormal, okay. Like, listening to him at night, even when I wasn't traveling, I know a lot of people listen to him if they were traveling or on the road a lot, and I was a huge fan of his. He passed away on Friday the 13th, which would be typical of old Art, and he was really a lot of people didn't really care for him. He did start quite a few conspiracies and things that people, thought were ridiculous. He is the one that gave John Teeter his voice, the time traveler we actually did a show on. And yes. He also is the one that made comments that there was an alien spaceship on the comet that the people ended up killing themselves to, trying to hitch a ride on that spaceship.
The Haley comet or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Haley Bop or whatever. So there was a lot of he was controversial, to say the least. But I say it's kind of like video games. If you're going to blame a video game for somebody killing themselves or shooting up a school, if you think that's ridiculous, you really got to say Art's conspiracy about an alien spaceship next to a comet doesn't mean people should kill themselves. So, I mean, yeah, a lot of people took offense to him saying that and starting that. So, anyway, he passed. Oh, I'm having throat problems this morning because of all the fucking pollen everywhere right now. So, pardon my nasty phlegm. But anyway, so he passed, and he was actually indicted into the Radio Hall of Fame, I believe. I think it was in 2009, I believe. But anyway, so pour one out to good old Art. Did you guys ever listen to Coast?
I haven't in the past.
Yeah, I've listened to it a little bit, but only fairly recently. It was a little bit like, I guess, kind of before my time, and now they do it as podcasts, but they only do like clips, so I've only been able to listen to like bits and pieces, kind of.
Yardley, you used to listen to Coast?
Yeah, I listened to it previously. I used to stream on the internet, but it wasn't something that I did a lot.
Yeah, I'd really like to, hopefully, since he's passed, they'll do kind of maybe some compilation shows or something of his past work, because there was really no subject too taboo or too crazy for him to discuss, and it really did make us all us weirdos okay. So I was sad to hear. I mean, 72 just isn't that old anymore. So he was 72 years old. That's just not that old. So
maybe that's a conspiracy too.
Maybe the spaceship finally took him home. But anyway, also, and I have this subject to talk about because I have two like stories that I want to discuss to hear if any of you guys have ever had. Have you guys ever had experiences with a mad pooper?
Yes, I've told you about Poop Alley at the library.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Not so much on my lawn, but like this story, but definitely that's an issue that continues. Like every time I walk out of somewhere in the library, I go, is that human poop or is that dog poop? Nope, it's human. I've been able to discern it with my nose, which is lovely. Yes.
No. Yardley, you ever had an experience with a mad pooper?
No, I haven't, but I'm curious to hear.
You're missing out, let me tell you.
Yeah.
In Orchard Park.
Yeah, so according to the Buffalo, New York News, a person's filing a police report about human feces suddenly appearing on their lawns. Somebody's even put together an actual article in a newspaper asking them to stop and letting them know that they have trail cameras now, so you gon' get busted if you don't stop shitting on her lawn. I've had a couple of experiences with this, not me personally, but people around me. And the first time I ever heard of something like this was my husband, when he was in a fraternity. They had what they called the mad shit, or the phantom shitter. So you'd like walk into your fraternity room, because it was in a huge old house, and there would be like a big turd like in a glass just sitting on your desk or something, like real random, or on a plate somewhere. Yeah, it would just be in the most random places in the fraternity house. And to this day, I mean, these guys are all still friends. They all still hang out. To this day, they do not know who it was. It's a mystery to this day. And they still talk about it, and they still joke about it, like pointing fingers and asking who it was and trying to get somebody to finally own up to it, but nobody will. The other one that I have an experience with is my friend Anna lives in like $1 million homes in this neighborhood, and very beautiful up in Milton. And we have like a email systems for all our all our homeowners subdivisions, and an email goes out. This chick is saying basically she's caught this jogger several times taking a shit in her bush, like several times, and calls her out like on the email and says, if you do not stop, I'm going to call the police on you. And it became this huge big drama in the neighborhood because they felt like she should have maybe like went to the girl first before, but this chick would jog in the morning and I guess like hit that one spot and need to shit and take a shit in this chick's bush. And we're talking like gorgeous, gated community, and this lady lives in the neighborhood, is pooping in this chick's bush. Like, you can't make that shit up. I mean, I would just not run if I felt like I couldn't, I couldn't make it home. Maybe I would just cut my run short. But this chick just felt like it was just A-okay to take a shit in this chick's bush and got called out like publicly in front of the entire neighborhood. And Anna had been telling me about it and was keeping me all apprised of the drama, and I was just like floored that was even like a conversation going on in their neighborhood. I was like, oh my God. So it happens more than we realize it happens, I guess. So so this pooper, they're calling it the copycat pooper because it's actually one has happened nearby before that was actually exposed. They're saying that the case is still open, and they're going to hopefully catch them next time with this trail camera. So we'll keep you updated on the mad pooper.
What do you get charged with? Is it like trespassing? Is it, I I don't know. What is it that you're doing? I don't know.
Well, I think it's illegal to poop. It's not it's
But like, what's the charge? I get it, but like,
I don't
what's
know. Pooping in
indecent
public.
exposure?
Just like peeing in public is illegal. So
depositing untreated sewage on land, probably like an ordinance or something stupid. I think the thing that I find the funniest is that the issue that they were having out in Orchard Park, they really believe that the police are going to step up their patrols over somebody shouldn't get in their yard.
Yeah.
They were probably like, yeah, we're going to do it. And then they laughed and they're like, we're not going to do that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know if as the police, that's really a patrol I would want to be on. Hey, we're going to step up this neighborhood patrol to see if we can catch someone taking a shit on somebody's lawn. Like, really? I'd probably be like, and here's where I bow out.
If the cops catch you, do they give you toilet paper and let you like clean up before they take you, or what? How does that work? Like, just curious. Asking for a friend.
I mean, when they catch you having sex, they let you get dressed. So I would assume if they catch you taking a shit, they're gonna let you get yourself all finished up there. I don't really know, but
or do you have to pause like mid poo and just go to jail or whatever?
I don't know, but I would at least hope they'd let you finish. If you have to go bad enough that you're shitting in public, that it would probably they'd let you finish. But anyway, moving on, because I think we've talked about taking a shit way too long. But so we have some updates on the It Chapter 2 movie. We were doing an internal text with each other this week. Yardley is not pleased with the casting decisions thus far. Yardley, you want to take us into who they're casting?
No, I mean, Bill Hader, cool. If they can get him, I'm totally cool with that. James, what's it? McAvoy, yeah. Cool. I just don't like Jessica Chastain. Like, I mean, that's my only issue is just her, but I think that she has potential to do a good job because I don't think, whatever the material calls, I think based off of what I saw in chapter 1 of It, I've got faith that they can make it work, but just Jessica Chastain, I mean, she's got the same earring chin as the young lady who played, Bev in the last one. Mm-hmm. I could definitely buy her being, I just don't like her as an actress that much, but that's about it though. Everything else, hey, I think that it's cool. And I think, she could totally blow me away. But just based off of the things that I've seen her in up to this point, I'm just not really that big of a fan.
Who would you have liked to see play her? What would you like in your mind?
That is the preface to this. And sorry, I did not do the research. You know how you have all these sites that have like the fan castings or, I've seen some. It was one that I actually thought that I might have posted on the page. I can't remember the actress's name.
Amy Adams? Was that the one? Amy Adams?
I'm not sure. There's
only like 2 redheads in Hollywood. Everybody was like, it's either going to be Jessica Chastain or Amy Adams. That's what I kind of was hearing.
I don't care about the red hair. I mean, they can do that,
Yeah.
Production. It's not really that. It's just, I don't know. It's just something wooden and kind of irky to me about Jessica Chastain. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but however, seeing as I don't have another name, and like I said, I don't have another name off the top of my head right now. Like I said, she could knock it out the park. I don't feel less excited because of it, but maybe this content, maybe she'll win me over with this type of content.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Does anybody remember what who she grows up to be? Like, what is her job? Does anybody remember? As far as in the movie, like what is she? I can't even remember her damn name. I'm losing my mind right now. Beverly, yeah. Does anybody know what Beverly becomes as she gets older? Anyone?
I don't know. I read that book when I was 12. I just remember she had sex because I was 12 and I was
right.
I believe Beverly was wasn't she like a fashion designer or something?
That sounds about right. I just wondered, like, what type of character Jessica's going to play, because I've seen her in some good, Zero Dark 30, I thought she was fantastic in. I'm trying to remember what else she's been in. I think she's gorgeous. I'm not sure I mean, I will be open to her making this her part and surprising us. I like her. I wasn't really seeing her. I was seeing Amy Adams as Beverly. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not negative about it like you. I was a little surprised that's who they went with.
Yeah, and remember in the excuse me, in the the It thing, it was Beverly who took the slingshot and shot Pennywise in the head when he had them cornered in the sewer.
Yeah.
So she's. I mean, who knows? Who knows what they do to him? Because we already know that they tweaked the first chapter. They gave like a lot of what was his name? Was it Mike? They gave a lot of his stuff, being the historian from the book. They gave that to what's the other character? The chubby young man.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I've slept since then.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we know that they've switched up storylines and who's going to do what. So I'll be real curious to see if they give Beverly the same type of, a thing that they had in the next movie. Because a lot of the stuff that they did, they kind of moved it to the first movie. I thought after the first movie, they might have wrapped it up because they kind of tied it up. So maybe if it would have sucked and they didn't do another movie, they at least had the movie where they wanted it, where you could say, okay, that's a decent end. So they're going to have to make a lot of changes to this next chapter. And I'm curious if her role will be comparable to what, Beverly did in the first movie, because I thought that they did a good job of giving everybody something to do. They could have did better with Mike and that other character. But outside of that, I've got faith that maybe she'll pull a rabbit out of the hat and win me over.
Good. All right. Yeah, me too. We'll see. I like her. Like I said, this isn't like me being negative about her. I just was surprised. So, I mean, Moni's right. When you look at her, they look alike, so she's definitely fitting that part. But the rest of it, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe
Are they shooting in Atlanta?
I don't know. I'll have to look. They haven't of course they haven't started yet, so I haven't even paid much attention. Usually we get big announcements here in Atlanta when a movie that big starts filming, and haven't heard anything yet. So I'm not sure. We'll see. I don't know even when they start filming. I think it's due to come out mid next year. So I'm assuming they're going to start filming pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's early summer. It's in the next few weeks.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to keep following it because that was an amazing movie, and it was pretty much the movie of 2017. So of course everybody's very much looking forward to its chapter 2 because they're going to take it and kind of flip it opposite of the book and now focus on the kids as adults instead of starting it like the first book, like the book did in the first movie. So interested to see how they take that. But so now we come to our main event, right? We're going to review A Quiet Place. I went and saw it last night, and of course, doing that, had to rush home and throw down some notes before this morning. And doing that after, when you go to the movie studio grill or studio movie grill or whatever the hell it's called, you drink wine and you eat. And so I came home and I was buzzed and I was tired and full, but managed to try to get some shit written down for us to follow. So I'm going to need y'all's help as we go along in case I've forgotten something. But I like the tagline for this movie, if they hear you, they hunt you. They did, I think the hype up to this movie was pretty good, the way they handled it. I thought it was amazing. Now the question is, for the three of us, did it live up to the hype? I will say I checked this morning on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb because, when you have a new movie come out, they fluctuate quite a bit on their ratings. And so far, this movie has not fluctuated on its ratings. It's still really high. It's 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and an 8.1 on IMDb, which shocks me because horror movies just don't get that rating on IMDb. I don't know when the last time. Does anybody remember a horror movie that they looked up on IMDb that had freaking 8.1? Not me.
No.
Nah. Well, what is the okay? And the user, I was wondering what the audience score was, but that's sitting at for 87. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think I'd rank it that high, but we'll get to talking about it.
We'll start discussing this then. Okay, so I will kind of do a little bit of introduction. Footpaths are covered in sand and traversed barefoot. Plates are replaced by leaves of lettuce. Metal and plastic Monopoly tokens are swapped with felt cutouts and fuzzy balls. Hanging over all of it, they are bearing the guilt of a single devastating failure, the death of a family's second son who was taken after turning on a loud toy in the forest. As well as we also have to factor in she's pregnant and about to give birth. So that's kind of the synopsis of this movie. So it starts off with them, tiptoeing into town and to get some supplies. And you see, I thought it was kind of funny. I don't know if I discussed this with you guys when we were talking about watching this, but you see like the shelves, all the food's gone except for the chips because, of course, they're really loud and you can't eat, crunchy chips without monsters finding you. So nobody's touched that food. The little boy finds the youngest boy finds a spaceship rocket toy in one of the stores and starts to play with it, and the family, sees him and sees that it's battery sound, so they take it away from him and say, you can't have this, and they take the batteries out and place the toy on the counter, and the daughter takes the toy and gives it back to the little boy without the batteries. And the little boy ends up taking the batteries too and putting them in the toy. And of course, that's not a good idea. So they're walking back to their house. The toy goes off. The little boy gets taken. Moni, what did you think about that scene?
I think it was really well done. And I think they kind of stretched it out just well enough as far as like seeing the reactions of Emily Blunt and John Krasinski, like John running like hell to go try to save his kid, and Emily like screaming into her hand but still not making a sound. And then full disclosure too, I had one fatal flaw in my viewing of this movie. I watched it from home, totally legal, on Kodi, and so it was a poor recording of it. And yeah.
Like somebody's got a video camera in the movie theater. Oh man, that's bad. Yeah, those are bad. It was partially
visually blocked and that kind of thing. So that was a bummer because also the movie starting off silenced. I was like, is it silent because the person didn't have their audio going properly, or is it silent because it's silent? What the hell's going on? So I was like going on to the movie spoiler at the same time to see like if I was missing anything, and like then I was reading ahead of myself and knowing what was going to happen next. Yeah. But still, I thought that they did this scene really well, and I think for it to have had an impact even when I was feeling kind of that confused and frustrated with my viewing experience really meant that it was well done.
Yeah, I agree. And being in the movie theater, I think if you were going to watch a pirated copy of this movie, this was the perfect one because nobody made a sound in that movie theater. It was like nobody was eating, nobody was making any like sound. Me and my bootlegged wine, my thing with going to the movies is I'll order one glass of wine and then I take my own in looks like a little IV bag, and after that first one, I just drink my own wine. So me trying to get the bag out of my purse, and it's like crinkly, and open it, and even pouring the wine in my glass was loud because that theater was so quiet. So you made the right choice on which movie to watch because nobody was making any sounds in that movie theater. Yardley, what did you think of this part?
Yeah, you know what? The opening was pretty cool. The thing that just bugged the hell out of me is when you've got a child that young, you know what? That child holds hand with mom or holds
Yes.
hand
Yeah.
with dad. You don't let your
Yeah.
kid, like, you know they're going to touch stuff. You know that they're going to screw up. And that kind of took me out of it. I'm like, y'all are, come on, for real. 89 days into this shit and you don't
would
realize.
have one parent in the back and one parent in the front, and
That's-
all the kids in the middle at the very least.
Yes, that's exactly what I felt that too. I thought it was a strong I thought it was strong in how they did it, and yeah, it definitely broke my heart. But even before all that happened, and I saw the little boy walking way behind, I'm like, why would that little boy
My
be back
husband
there?
and I said the same thing. We were like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And even with the the daughter, the one that was deaf, she knew better. Like you know, like she knew better. You're telling me. I mean, I'm just me as a child when I know that there's something, the situation that they're in, that it's just so crucial that you keep your wits about things. Now, I could see myself giving the child, the spaceship, the space shuttle. I think that's what it was. But I still would have grabbed the batteries and moved them, even if I was her. But the dad was wrong by sitting them there. It's just they did everything wrong. But the suspense of the situation in that intro, I thought was great, but it just took me out of it the whole time. I'm like, okay, you're fucking up there. You're fucking up there. You're letting them walk behind you. Well, what's going on? You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I bet they never walked that way again, ever.
Yeah, no. And I kind of felt bad for the kid at the same time. I was saying that's what your ass gets.
Yeah.
I just kind of felt like that. It's just like, and I was kind of relieved because it's like now that he's gone, maybe everybody else can act like they've got some sense.
Okay.
Oh, all right. What was I saying? I forget.
I think we were still talking about the opener.
Okay. All right, let's move on. We're having technical difficulties. We're recording right now. Okay, so I got a lot of editing to do for this movie. Okay, so one thing that before we get back into talking about the actual movie, in real life, the girl is actually deaf. So I thought that was kind of interesting and pretty darn cool that we get to kind of, it's pretty realistic in that way that she is actually deaf. She really can't hear, and what that must be like, in acting, and that the whole family did have to learn sign language for real. And I think I did hear something about how as they're learning sign language, like you can even see their personalities coming out even with their sign language, instead of actually talking. So that was a pretty interesting part of the making of this movie. So the boy dies, so that's clearly very devastating. And you fast forward, I think a year it is or so, and you can tell there is a little bit of contention with the daughter. I think she blames herself and feels like everyone blames her because she's the one that gave the little boy his toy. Even when they're not talking, you can kind of feel this tension and uncomfortableness with how she's feeling, and she's angry and frustrated. Plus, she's at that age where I think kids just get that way anyway. That would be really a difficult situation to handle all that and do it quietly without anybody hearing. So in all of that, the dad, and this is kind of what I guessed. I sometimes don't really always guess the right way with movies, but the dad is searching to try to find a hearing aid for her. And I'm assuming the hearing aids are like, he's trying to find one or create one that doesn't make any sound that the monsters can hear. Is that what he's doing? Anybody know?
I think so, yeah. I mean, not like he talks about it in the movie, but
nobody
from
says
what we
anything.
can tell, that's what I gathered, yes.
Okay. So, yeah, what, Yardley?
Well, wasn't he, I thought that he was trying to fix it simply so that she could hear. I didn't think, but I forgot now that you guys are mentioning that when she was overlooking the notes and the stuff later on. Maybe I just kind of thought that everything that happened at the end was kind of an accident, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But maybe y'all can kind of fill me in as we go along with that.
So she fights him about trying all the new hearing aids for some reason. You know, she just says they're not going to work, and she's real negative about it. And he tries to, you know, encourage her to try them, and they will find one that works. And I thought maybe because the monsters have such amazing hearing that he was working on a special one for her so that they can't hear, but she can hear it. I don't know. That was what I kind of got out of it. Did you, and I'm asking this a little late because we've already talked about this, but Yardley, do you think the sister had blame on the death of the son?
I mean, I think there's plenty of blame to go around. She had some blame, but at the same time, I mean, if you're an adult and you know, you have a young kid who does that and something tragic happens. I mean, as an adult, though, you've got to kind of brush that off and make sure that you're, you know, letting that kid know that, hey, you know, accidents happen.
Right.
You know, part of it was me to blame. You know, as an adult, I should have had him with me anyway. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that them as a family has to deal with probably equally as a tragedy. And it's sad. And nobody wants to see the cute little kid, you know, get tossed up like that. Nobody really wants to see that. But it was so many mistakes that they should have known almost 90 days into this crisis that, you know, they kind of set themselves up for failure at that point.
Right. Moni, what do you think?
Yeah, pretty much the same. And, you know, there is plenty of blame to go around. And it was just one of those accidents. And, you know, but to be honest, if we were in this same world with my kids, we'd be dead within the first 30 seconds. So, you know, the fact that they made it that long, but the fact that they did make it that long, maybe that's what made them get complacent and just think, you know, at some point you would relax. And then that's exactly like when they're playing Monopoly, and that's exactly when some shit would happen, and that's exactly what happened here.
Well, what do y'all feel about the rules of lack of rules that are established? You have to think about where they're at in these monsters and their hearing, but there's so much, you know, there's wind, there's so much things creaking around it. It's like, for me, I think it's you know, and I know you're supposed to kind of throw your rationale out the wind, but there's so much noise and ambient sounds going on that, like, if they can hear you opening up a bag of chips inside your house, there's so much other thing. They're out there in cornfields. The wind's always blowing. There's always something creaking. So to me, I'm like, I know the rules are basically just being convenient to these characters getting terrorized. I just think that there should have been a little bit more to these monsters, so to speak, than what we got in the movie.
Yeah, that's true. So speaking of the monsters, though, I just wanted to bring this up. I saw something, it was Nerdist. They did a video asking if this movie needs to have its own universe, essentially having, you know, a sequel or two. And however we feel about that, we can talk about after we finish discussing the film. But just wanted to bring up regarding the monsters that there's some rumor that this may be part of or may become part of the Cloverfield universe, because these are aliens that have come, and now this is the world we're living in once the Cloverfield monsters have come to Earth.
Interesting. You know what? And if you look at the monster in itself, it looks like a mix between the Demogorgon from Stranger Things and the Cloverfield monster. Like the head looked like the Demogorgon and the rest of the body looked like the Cloverfield monster from the first movie.
Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting thought. Really, I mean, I feel like everything now, if it's a monster, it's going to be part of the freaking Cloverfield universe.
But did you? I know. Now you're going to have me thinking like that. But the monster in itself, was the design something that you liked, Moni? Like, what were you feeling when you first got your first glimpse at this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think this film has such an organic, like, hasn't got a lot of special effects otherwise. It doesn't have a ton of gore. It doesn't have... Hello? Yeah? Can you do it without a microphone, like straight into the computer?
I could,
And I know
but
it's not
okay,
sounding
here we
as good,
go.
but-
I'm on now. I'm on again. I got it on. Yeah. Okay, so keep talking. Thank you for this show. Sorry, y'all. There's going to be some weird pieces here and there because my
I do not remember
microphone,
where I was.
my brand new
Yeah,
microphone's
we were-
totally fucked up.
okay.
So, well, I was going to say that I read that about the Cloverfield, and it was, and then they chose not to do it. Now, maybe they're reconsidering that, but at the beginning, Cloverfield did discuss with him about it becoming part of Cloverfield, and he chose to do it his own way and go independently. But I don't know. Maybe they are going to do it. Maybe they change their minds.
Well, it depends. I mean, the success of this film has changed. You know, that money always changes people's
Right.
opinions, and also, you know, if they decide to do sequels, that's when they may wrap it into the Cloverfield universe. Is what it's sounding like.
Okay.
Wasn't the budget for this film only like $30 million or something
Yeah.
low? Wasn't it like pretty cheap?
It could have been. I mean, I can see how they could have made it pretty cheap because you just superimpose the monsters in later and everything else was just out in the middle of somewhere, some cornfield. So I could imagine it wouldn't have been that much to make. And the main stars are married and are, you know, the writers and the producers. So you could have done it on a pretty good budget.
17 million.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And
So they made a nice little penny off it.
but honestly, do you really think they would want to be tied to Cloverfield with the way the Clover? I mean, maybe at the beginning they could have been interested, but I personally, they don't need Cloverfield. This thing's #1 in the box office right now. It's making good money, and I don't see them thinking we really need Cloverfield to get to keep going. I think they should just go off on their own and stay just.
I guess
the way it
depends
is.
on if they want to continue doing this project. I mean,
Yeah.
for instance, if they're not interested in doing more films, but they would like to have more money, then they could say, you can call it part of the Cloverfield universe and do subsequent sequels to it, and we can take the money and bow out, you know? So who
Right.
knows?
Right. So anyway, back to the movie. So here's a question for you. And this is something that bugged me, and maybe I just didn't notice it or I just missed this part, but I was wondering why they didn't soundproof the house. Like, maybe because it makes too much noise to soundproof the house? I don't
Well,
know.
didn't they soundproof the basement, though?
They did, but they didn't because when you see the basement steps, it shows you the steps to go down that don't make sounds. And she's in the basement and makes a sound later, and the alien does come down. So clearly, the baby bed was very well soundproofed. It looked like a freaking coffin, but the actual basement, I'm not sure was as soundproofed as it could have been or should have been. I don't know, but it was kind of, for me, I'm thinking, if you can do that to the coffin, why aren't you doing that to the rest of the basement? I don't know. It was just kind of a question I had. Like, I hate to say, like, oh, gee, if I was faced with this is exactly what I do, because who knows, But anyway, I just wondered if anybody else wondered, why the hell aren't they soundproof the entire house? Or run one of those, record the waterfall and run it in your house. Because they had the microphone,
Yeah, it's true.
Like, why they were using the waterfall to have conversations. It's like, you should have recorded that, taken it to your house, and had waterfall sounds, and that would have been, helped out a little bit for an accidents or something. But anyway, something I thought about while I was making notes. But we'll go back to talking about the movie. And speaking of the waterfall, well, first of all, the mom's pregnant now, a year later. They're you see the house, like I said, they've got little spaces to walk that don't creak because it's an older house. They're preparing for this baby. And at first, when they show the baby bed with the little mask, I'm like, oh my gosh, is that like to knock the baby out? But it was oxygen, because they've soundproofed the coffin-like baby bed with the lid. And of course, the baby needs to breathe. So it wasn't what I thought. I thought they were just going to knock the baby out till it was old enough to not speak. But no, they've made it soundproof, the baby bed. And then you see the dad takes the son to a waterfall, which the son seems he's afraid a lot. He's kind of a timid kid, and to me seems like, which I can understand why he'd be afraid a lot. But he has a lot of fear, and the dad takes him down to the waterfall and says, you can talk here because they can't hear you, and you use the noise to protect yourself, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, that's like foreshadowing. And the little boy asks the dad if he blames the daughter for his brother's death, and they have that conversation. And of course, the dad says no, and the little boy says yes, but she blames herself. And at first, I missed the part that she gave him the toy, because when you're at the movie thing, they are always like giving you shit and taking your order at like the worst times, and that's kind of what happened there. So I missed who gave him the toy. I thought he took the toy, but I did see him take the batteries. So anyway, going on. So I was kind of confused at that part, but now it makes a lot more sense. So what do you think?
What do y'all think about the fact that she got pregnant after all?
Yeah.
After the jump off, that was just like, a baby's a no.
Replacement baby.
Yeah.
No. I thought that was a batshit crazy idea, honestly.
Like, that's one of those decisions where you're like, we're not going to survive this one.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I would never in a million years think a baby's a good idea in that environment, but I don't, maybe they
the giving birth, even just the giving birth, I was like, you kind of like how much that would suck, but also not the nail part so much, but you kind of deserve to be giving birth in that situation because that's what you bargained for when you got pregnant again.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I guess they're like eternal optimists. I don't know. Maybe they thought the aliens would be gone by then. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, but
populate the planet.
Surprise, there are ways to not make a baby. I don't know if they knew that or not, but they
must have some really quiet sex. Also.
That's what I was saying. My libido would be totally shot. Like, I'm not thinking, if I can't even pour out a bag of chips, what I mean? I'm not thinking, like, hey.
Yeah, we'll pass on the sex thing for now, but maybe they went to the waterfall a lot. I don't know. Anyway.
You know what? That's possible. I didn't think about it. Yeah.
Who knows?
Keep the kids home alone with monsters so we can go have sex at a waterfall.
We're going to go do it in the waterfall.
Yeah. But still, I would do. You really want to take your chances though. Like, my anxiety would be through the roof. I wouldn't want to do anything, let alone go to scourge for food. No. But man.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, when you have kids, it's hard enough to find places to have sex without them walking in on you or knocking on the door or something. So I can't imagine if there's kids and fucking monsters. So I would be like,
Same
fuck
difference.
this. We're not having sex. We just gotta have to go a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, so moving on. So she's pregnant. And while they're at the waterfall, okay, here's the part that bothers me. And let me just say, I liked this movie. I'll just say that right now. But there were a few things that I was kind of like, huh? So she's laying with this. She's got like a little. Oh, she's in his room crying. That's what's happening. She goes upstairs into her dead son's room and starts crying and mourning him. The girl is pissed because the dad won't include her in his waterfall trips. And so she runs away, kind of. You think she's running away. She packs her shit up and starts, she takes off. The dad takes the son to the waterfall so they can have a conversation, and actually talk. And I'm sitting here thinking, the mom doesn't worry about what her kid's doing. Like, where's your daughter in all this? Like, you just run off and start crying about the dead kid, but you're not really paying much attention where the girl is.
The last time she didn't watch her kid, that turned out really well. So I think it's time to stop watching your other kid.
Yeah, I mean, hey, let's.
As well.
That's kind of what I felt. Like, really? She's just going to run away and you're not going to realize she's gone? Like, that kind of bothered me. But she does run away, and she stops and, sits at the place where the kid died for a while. And then you see the dad and the son walking back, and they run into an elderly man whose wife has apparently just been murdered by one of these monsters. And you can tell by the elderly man's face, he's losing his shit and getting ready to, kill himself to, I guess, rid himself of the horror that he's lost his wife. And he starts to scream, of course, and Dad picks up the son, and they take off running to not be there when the monsters come to take this old guy out. Did he look like Blue from Old School? Anybody else? Anyone? I was like, I think that's Blue from Old School. You know, the old guy that joins the fraternity?
I was watching that the other day, actually.
If it wasn't him, it was close. It was a close second for sure. It looked like him. I'll have to do some. I just was thinking that in the movie. That looks like Blue. Anyway, so Blue is he kills himself. And during all of this, the mom wakes up or gets a cramp while mourning her dead son, and her water breaks. And she's going into labor. And still doesn't know that her daughter's run away. And she starts to make her way downstairs, and that's when she steps on a nail and, of course, can't scream because that would not be a good thing. So that would really, really suck. Let me just tell you how bad that would suck.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. But don't we, like, when we step on a nail, isn't the first thing that you do is like get something to maybe just get to push it over? Like, I couldn't just leave it. That would bug me, because I thought there were like 2 other times in this movie that I thought the little girl was going to step on the nail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
at the very least, I was like, put a piece of cloth to mark where it's at or something. I don't know, but I was.
You can just take something and just bend it, over, and that doesn't really make any noise. But I knew when that happened that was probably something that I could see both of you just totally wincing over. But if that was brutal, that might have been one of the most brutal scenes of the movie. But don't you just immediately snatch your foot off? Like, I don't think that I would have just stepped on it and not just reflexively pulled my foot up off of it, though.
I don't know. I mean, she's pregnant. She's in labor. She can't make a sound. And that thing went in pretty deep. I think if I had just, stepped on something little and I would have jerked my foot up, but something that big, I probably would have been a little freaked out to jerk back off again. I don't know. I'm like you. Like, if I step on a sticker or something, the first thing I do is lift up my foot and go, but when you can't do that, I don't know. I don't know what you'd do. I guess that's why you can interpret it the way you want. Maybe she would have done that.
I was waiting for this to turn into Home Alone, because the nail was still out, and I was like, the monster's going to come down the stairs, slip on the water that's been broken from her her womb, and then fall on the nail, and then slide down into the basement, and all the monsters just caught around.
They're gonna tar and feather the monster. Yeah, that would have happened.
She's gonna leave all pissed, looking all fun.
So she goes down the stairs now with hurt foot and having a baby, and I can't remember what draws the alien downstairs. Does anybody remember? Down in the basement with her, what happened? That I can't remember.
Wasn't he just kind of hunting around? Wasn't he just sort of sniffing around looking for them at that point?
That's probably what it was. So then he comes down there, and she's sitting there, trying not to make a sound, because these things have crazy good hearing. I mean, basically their whole head is an ear. So they hear pretty good. And so she does something. She diverts it somehow and goes back upstairs and gets into the tub and gets ready to have this baby while aliens are lurking around her house, trying to find something to eat or kill or whatever. I don't know if they eat them or kill them just to kill them or what the hell that they do that for, but
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't really say do they eat them or are they just out to kill them and take over the planet.
Well, and it's PG-13, so there's not a lot of gore, which I usually wouldn't complain about, but when you're asking a question like that, it's not like we really see what they do because it is PG-13, right. So we're not getting that factor of whether they're noshing on these things or just killing or what. I don't know. Yeah. I guess hunting implies that you're, doing this to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. So somehow she ends up in the tub upstairs, and here comes another alien, or the same one. Shit, I don't know. And in the bathroom, and she's sitting there like literally giving birth while she was down in the basement. She turned, so there's lights hung all over the house, and they're white. Well, she turns them to red to warn her husband and son that the aliens are in the house. I'm assuming that's what that's for. And they come up to the house and see it's red. And he goes to the son and says, hey, you need to, fire off the rocket. And the little boy is like, I'm scared. And he's like, you got to do this for your mom because she's in the house with aliens. And so he goes off and lights this rocket, and when the fireworks go off, you hear the mom scream because she's like giving birth, and they go in the house, and the dad thinks she's dead because he goes upstairs and he just sees this tub with blood in it and has no idea that what's going on, and she's in the shower with the baby. So, Moni.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you could give a silent birth or nah? I don't think I could.
I mean, I'm no Scientologist because that's their
exactly.
job,
that's what I said.
So no, funny. Dude. I'll tell you what, too. My first kid, not to get too into it, although not like we don't talk about graphic things on here all the time, but I didn't get my epidural, no pain meds, felt everything, and I was cursing so much. I curse anyway, but I really wanted these nurses to like. It's kind of like that whole thing when you're at a restaurant. And if you have a complaint, you try to be as nice as possible. At least I do, because you don't want them to spit in your food. Yeah. I was like, motherfucker, do something for me. Give me my fucking epidural. Make it work. Blah, blah. And then, between contractions, I'd be like, I'm so sorry. I'm really a nice person. Please don't hate me. What the fuck is wrong with you people? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Why are you letting this happen? Yeah. So, no, I would not have been able to give birth silently to answer your question.
No, me neither. My first child was 2 feet long. So she broke her collarbone on the way out. And my epidural had worn off a long time before that because the lady giving epidurals had like back-to-back C-sections. And so she gave me mine early. And so my shit had worn off by the time it was like 15 hours later when it was actually time to give birth. So there was no epidural. And she was huge. So, yeah, I don't think I would have been able to be quiet, but that's just me. Anyway.
And she had it pretty...
As good as Scientologists. That's
yeah.
I guess so. I mean, because she had it pretty fast. Like, it basically just slid out, huh? Because I don't think the time frame
I guess that's the fourth child, right?
Yeah, fourth kids, yeah, that's 4. They don't... The body pretty much knows what to do after having 4 of them. So the body's like, I got this. It's okay. We're just going to open right up and let this kid slide right out. But it still is painful. Because
but
Jay,
you know what?
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying, but that scene, like the whole thing with her being in the bathtub and then you saw the blood and all of that stuff, they did do a great job in this movie. Like the suspense factor, you're just like, man, this is so
fucked up.
You put yourself in this situation, but man, I just, I don't want you to really go out like that. You know what I mean? So
I was feeling for her. I was really feeling for her. It was a crazy, and of course you're like, of course this is all going to happen at once. She's going to give birth when they're not home, and aliens are there. Of course it wouldn't be a movie if that didn't happen. And I thought it was very suspenseful. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, seriously, like, can this lady catch a break? I mean, so it was pretty good. I was on the edge of my seat for sure. So the dad finds her in the shower and they're downstairs and they're putting this poor little baby in a coffin because of course it's crying, And and they put it in its little soundproof coffin and give it some oxygen. And the mom's like, hey, you need to go find our kids, yo. And she goes to sleep. And then a pipe bursts and starts to fill up the basement while she's sleeping with the baby. And he runs out to find them. In the meantime, the kids have been running from aliens and we're going up to the top of this. It was a grain silo to try to get them their attention with lights, I believe it was. And they, of course, the parents were a little busy, so didn't see the lights, and they're thinking that they're not going to come and they're going to die. And then they fall through the roof of this silo into the grain and start literally drowning in corn, like in corn, dried corn, and save themselves. And how did they get out of the silo? I can't remember. Oh, the monster. Okay, the monster goes into the grain silo to get them, and her hearing aid starts going and playing this crazy, loud, piercing, shrieking sound, which clearly agitates the alien because it's one giant ear. So that sound to it is like fingernails on a chalkboard times 1,000, and it like breaks through the silo wall and escapes that sound. So then they get out through that hole. I think, yeah, they got out through the hole, running through the corn, and Dad finds them. So in that, the alien also finds them, and they run. One of them runs under a truck, and the little boy goes in the truck, right, guys? That's how it went, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the alien starts trying to rip. She goes into the truck, too, to help protect the little boy, and the alien starts ripping that truck open. The dad comes up onto them and sees this and realizes that if he doesn't do something, the alien will get his children. And his wife already told him to take care of their kids, so he's going to do whatever he can to save them. Now, here's where I had a problem. I just felt like there might have been other options for him instead of killing himself to try first. I mean, maybe, he had that axe. He could have thrown the axe somewhere or diverted the alien in some other way. I don't know. But I mean, he
was injured, though. It injured him. And again,
that's right,
PG-13, we didn't see the extent of his injury.
No.
But I can only think, because I was thinking that too, was what a waste. But I was thinking that maybe the only reason why he went that route was because he was injured very badly.
Die. Yeah.
To where he may not have survived anyway. So
he signs. The little girl or the daughter's looking out the window and sees him, and he signs that he loves her and he's always loved her, and then screams. And of course, when you do that, the alien comes and gets you. So the alien goes after him, and he sacrifices himself to save the kids. And the mom is watching this on a camera the whole time. So she's, of course, now knows that he's dead, and she's devastated. And the kids run to the house. So, Yardley, what did you think of that?
Yeah, I kind of felt like a lot of people that I have met that have watched the movie kind of felt the same way. They didn't necessarily want that character to go out like that, but I was really trying to wrap my head around a way that he could have gotten out of that situation. I mean, the injury, he could still stand up. So yeah. I don't know. He was probably losing a lot of blood or whatever, but I really did hate to lose the character at that point. And also, he was dying where you're still not necessarily sure if they were going to make it out, because I think they got away because he took the car out of park or something and it rolled down the hill, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's real convenient that you get a steady roll that gets you from that cornfield all the way back to the, literally to the front door.
I think that's how I think that might have been like something they planned it that way on like that was, if they were ever out there and that happens, that they can roll, they can get in the truck. 'Cause she's like, go to the truck. Like that must be like a little like escape plan for if something like this happens. So that's kind of what I got out of it? I don't know. Who
Well,
knows?
maybe, but it would be an escape plan that you didn't test.
Yeah, yeah. True,
It's
because
not like if
can't
you,
make
if you
any
tested
sounds.
it, you'd have to roll it back. Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
but that was very convenient. But it is what it is. But man, I really did hate for him to go out like that. But at the end of the day, it's about the children, and he gave them a chance.
Yeah. Yep. So they are now in the house with their mom, and the aliens are coming to the house, or one of them is in the house, and she comes down and sees that her dad had been working countless, hours on trying to help her here. And of course, that's kind of gut-wrenching for her because she had this chip on her shoulder that her dad was mad at her and blamed her and didn't love her. And that's always hard to see after they're gone, and you don't have that opportunity to have the relationship maybe you could have had, knowing that, and it being apparent that he does love her. The alien is getting close, and while it's getting into the basement, the sister is reading her dad's notes on the wall about what are their weaknesses, and the light bulb goes off, and she remembers the hearing aids and how the aliens would react to them, so she turns hers on and turns it up. And of course, that affects the alien in a negative way, with her included. So she's kind of, sacrificing and in pain as well to get this alien to feel the effects as well. And it freaks out and falls down, but doesn't die. So then the mom has to shoot it, which you know what that means. You make a sound like that, the other aliens are going to hear. So here we are at the very end of the movie. You see kind of an upshot of these aliens running from the cornfields into the house. The mom reloads her shotgun, and the little girl grabs a microphone, and they ready themselves for the confrontation with the aliens. And then it's fucking over.
Yup.
I was like, what? And so I was asking everybody around me, even strangers, do you think they lived? And everybody says, yes, they think they lived. I just was kind of shocked that was the ending. Yardley, what did you think of that?
I'm sorry, you broke up. What'd you say
shit.
real quick?
I said they ended the movie very abruptly, and I was kind of shocked about that. And do you think they survived? And did you think that the ending was... Maybe they should have dived in a little deeper before they ended things.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't like that ending. I mean, we needed to see a couple more of those things get off. And were y'all under the impression? Because I knew throughout the movie, I figured that there was more than one. But after the first one got killed, there were only two more that were running towards the house, right?
From what it was an aerial shot, and it looked like there were a lot more coming out from the cornfields, but I didn't get an opportunity to really count how many. What do you, Moni? Did you see that, Moni? I don't know.
I saw that, and it seemed like there were more than two, but the quality of what I saw, considering it was filmed off of someone, hiding a camcorder in a movie theater.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, she had an opportunity even before that frequency thing that was messing with their nerves. She had an opportunity to shoot it, because it kept opening up its mouth or whatever when she was just standing there.
Yeah.
I think I would have taken my chance, right then, But I guess, I mean, the monsters in themselves, and like I said, I mean, you went through this whole movie seeing how, terrified they were about anything that they did. So for me, I would have gotten a little bit more satisfaction to kind of see them maybe take out a couple more, what I'm saying? By luring them there, of course, doing it, they fall down, they kill it. I would have liked that, saw that, but because it doesn't make me believe. I guess in our hearts we want to think that at the end of the day they ended up getting rid of them. But do we really that? Do we really know that that's what happened? Because for all we know, they all got killed.
Yeah, well, that's it. Do they have enough ammo? Do two of those things come in at once, and one jumps on someone while the other one, is getting shot? I mean, there's so many. Is her aim going to be that true every single time?
Well, can
she reload fast enough? It's so many variables.
Amplified with the microphone, can the actual hearing aid kill the alien, instead of the gun? So that's kind of what I was wondering. You see it get like very much affected by the hearing aid, enough that it falls down to the ground and is like convulsing, but it doesn't die because she has to turn it off because it's also hurting her. And then you see the other aliens running towards the house, and she grabs that microphone, and I'm wondering, well, with the microphone and the amplified volume, would that officially kill them? So I felt like they kind of cut it off a little early. Like, I wanted to see that happen. Like, what happens, you know?
But that's one of those things where that's the moment where they would have to figure out a way. Because I think I only saw like a box of shotgun shells that he had when he was loading up his, he was loading up the shotgun earlier in the movie. But that's one of those things where you have to take your shot and kill as many as you can. Because just think about this. We're in a world where we don't have those aliens. And what are the odds of you going over a year and your power not going out?
Right,
you know what I mean? So it's
totally.
I just don't think that the likelihood of that is very high at all. So that's one of those deals where it's like, we have to take our shot now. If we live through it, we're the best. But I would have liked to know, because you remember when they were lighting the fire and you saw the other ones? I was, the other ones like in the distance. You know what I'm talking about? The other fires? Was that supposed to mean that there were other people out there, right? Yeah. So, I mean, we don't...
Help us out, bitches.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird that we never kind of saw anything that came out of that. I don't know if it was even necessary.
Well, and I also would have loved to have seen a little bit more about how they came to be, like how they came to be there. And I'm a sucker for apocalypse movies, so I want to see the apocalypse happen. I want to see the wiping out and the fight, even if it's just for like 10 minutes. Yeah, well, I mean, this could have been... It could have been something they could have gone a little bit better at the beginning, and they could have done a little bit more at the end. But maybe they literally didn't want that. Maybe they just wanted this one story with this right there starting then, which clearly they did. But when you walk away, sometimes you walk away with good questions and you like having the questions, and then sometimes you walk away and go, no, I want to see more. So I've walked away a little frustrated. I liked the movie. I was frustrated at the end, and I was frustrated at the beginning because I wanted to see and have more information. So some people liked that, clearly, because they rated it very highly. And again, I did really like this movie. It just left me with a lot of questions, which I normally don't have. So it's kind of bizarre for me, a weird feeling. Moni, what were the pros and cons of this movie? And then what would be your overall rating with, to 10 on it?
I didn't mind there being questions. I liked that they kept the scope small and the movie small. Kind of the script was just focused on this one family and their survival. I loved that they had a deaf actress and that the whole family spoke sign language. That being said, I think that really played a huge role in this family's particular survival because they all could communicate because they already knew sign language prior to all of this happening. I think that, I think it was kind of bleak, and maybe this is pessimistic of me. It reminded me of The Mist a little bit, where it's like, they kill, spoiler alert, at the end of The Mist, they kill everybody, and then, the cavalry arrives. Yeah. Because honestly, if they did get through that particular ordeal, the family at the end, if they actually survived all those monsters coming, I think that their chances of survival without the father character are slim. And that's not a man-woman thing. That's having more adults in the house, having someone who has clearly done everything he could with inventing things and researching and doing everything he could to help this family survive, while the mother took on more of the caretaker of the children role. And I know she'll have to step up in that, but now that they have a brand new baby that's going to cry, and how are they going to go out and get food, or are the kids going to have to go do that? Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions in that I don't see this family surviving long beyond, that incident that we saw at the end of the film, even if they got through that. But that being said, I give this film an 8, and I think I might have even rated it 8.5 had I seen it in a theater and had a proper technological experience with the audio and the video. But it was a really good film.
Okay. All right. Yardley, same question.
Yeah, I'd give it a 8, a B minus. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought that for the most part, I mean, the ending, I didn't really dig the very ending that much. Uh, the things that they were doing wrong, like I said, like 90 days into this at the beginning, kind
Mm-hmm.
of aggravated me. But all of the things in between, just the build up to certain moments. I mean, you did care about the family. I thought that they did a pretty decent job of kind of getting you, getting the feels up for at least, certain members of that family. I thought that that was great. But I'll tell you, and I get it because, with their budget and for what they were doing, I think that they definitely set the tone and did the things that they wanted to do. But what if they would have added in the dilemma of them making the decision of if they're going to keep the baby alive, which
Mm-hmm.
is pretty much going to kill all of them, or does she have the baby and they get rid of the baby? What if they would have added that element into it as well? Like a decision on, do we make this decision for one to go so that everybody else can live? Or
Yeah.
do we try to keep the baby alive and pretty much 99.99% we're all going to definitely die? So if they would have added that in the mix on top of this, I thought that the drama aspect would have been through the charts. So I give it a passing grade, but I definitely don't think that it's like a 94%, but everybody's got their own opinions.
Yeah. I'd have to agree with you guys. I'd give it an 8, 8.5. I thought the suspense and the thrills were amazing. They did definitely have me on the edge of my seat quite a few times, and I'm going, oh shit, in the theater I went with my daughter and her boyfriend, which, that makes me feel icky just saying. And then also my friend and my husband, Jamie, went with me, and my husband went with me. So we were all definitely on the edge of our seats. It was very suspenseful. There were some things that I was kind of like, eh. But I mean, really, what I find and what my questions are, other people would not have maybe thought of it, or it didn't bother them. So I think that every movie is for your own personal interpretation, and this one scores really high. I think based on most of the other movies that are coming out this year, it's probably gonna be one of the top performers of this year. That's my prediction, and I think the more people talk about it, more people are going to go even more. So I think it'll turn into one of the bigger horror blockbusters of this year, in my personal opinion.
Nice.
So, yeah. And with that pretty much wraps up our review of A Quiet Place. I thought, I always see John Krasinski as Jim from The Office because I freaking love The
me too.
Office. And I think he did a good job of eliminating that. Like I wasn't looking at him. I was at first, oh, it's Jim. I love Jim. And then by the end of the movie, he was not Jim anymore. So I think his performance was really good. And it now he's no longer Jim. He's now left that typecast that I think everybody had for him.
Well, he was in, I think it was Zero Dark 30, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but I don't even remember him in
13
that movie.
hours. Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
one of those.
I never
movies,
watched
yeah.
that one, but
That was
I've
really good most of the way through. So
yeah. I've always seen him as Jim. Like even in the other little movies he's been in, he's still Jim, but he wasn't Jim anymore after this movie. So he was successfully, for me, got rid of that his Jimness, and and then his wife being in that's you got to have a really strong relationship to have your husband direct you and also star alongside you. So they did a good job of apparently still staying married after this whole situation. I don't like my husband telling me what to do, so I'd probably have a hard time with that. But they apparently have a relationship that works for them. So anyway, it was a good movie. And so with that, Moni, you are up next week. So you want to give us a little hint of what you're doing next week?
Yeah, harkening back to you mentioning this year's horror films, I would like us to see Truth or Dare. because it's one that we had anticipated and talked about earlier on our podcast. And I actually saw it yesterday, so I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. And then, of course, as I mentioned, I will be experimenting with a Ouija board. Today is Sunday, so tomorrow. So by the time you guys are actually listening to this episode, that will have taken place. So I will share my experiences, or really lack thereof, which is what I'm anticipating with that. But that is our show for next week. Is we'll talk about Truth or Dare, and we'll talk about other dumb adventures in summoning spirits.
Nice. Okay. Yardley, you want to tell us how we can find you online?
You can follow me online at militant_marker on Twitter.
Okay. Moni?
Moni Bear on Instagram, and Rebel Moni, MONY, on Twitter.
Nice. And you can also find The Creepin' It Real Show on Instagram and Twitter by either searching for that, or on Twitter you can search at creepin_it. And with that, I would like to bid adieu to my co-hosts, and thank you guys for tuning in to another wonderfully fucked up episode of the Creepin' It Real Show. And another quick shout out, like I've mentioned probably 1,000 times, I do a lot of driving now with my new job, and I've been listening to podcasts, and I have literally I had a ton of driving and traveling this last week, and I listened the entire week, got caught up on Astonishing Legends, which I've already given a shout out to, but I would like to say that if you are doing a long commute or on a road trip, their podcasts are perfect because they're an hour to 2 hours long, and then they do like several like part series, so it's like one series can be 6 or 8 hours long in different parts. And so it's that freaking research and work that they do to put into these shows is absolutely like flooring to me. I can't imagine putting that much effort in our podcast. Sorry, y'all, but it's true. Love the podcast, but it's not my full-time job. And they clearly just knock it out of the frickin' ballpark every week. So another quick little shout out to them. And if you guys are looking for something really long and very factual based, but open-minded about paranormal and mythology and everything, you should definitely check them out. So anyway, with that, I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and we will catch ya on the flip side.